One of the most deeply upsetting things a narcissist can go through is the slow breakdown of the story they have built about who they are and the role they think they play in your life. This is not just a hit to their ego, it is a deep crack in their true self. Narcissists do not live in reality the way most people do. Instead, they live inside a kind of mental movie where they are always the star, the main person around whom everyone else is supposed to spin. But this made-up story is very weak. It only stays up as long as everyone else agrees to act the parts given to them. For a long time, you likely went along with it. Maybe you did not fully see what you were doing, or maybe you felt you had no choice, but you joined in anyway. You explained yourself again and again, defended your reasons, and tried hard to be understood. You made excuses for their actions, ignored your own needs, or put up with their mood swings, while hoping that someday they would truly change. Over time, however, something far more important changed inside you. The narcissistic story depends completely on control, emotional control, all mental control, and even the power to decide what is real and what is fake within the relationship. They rewrite the past whenever it helps them. They minimize your pain, exaggerate their own problems, and twist facts until they become a tool to rule over you instead of a path to understanding. Everything they do serves one main goal: to keep the lie alive that they are needed, better than you, and always one step ahead. But this lie only lasts if you keep accepting it. The moment you stop participating, when you begin to see through the tricks and respond with calm awareness instead of anger, the whole structure starts to break. It may not fall in a loud crash, but the damage is huge because you are not just walking away physically. You are taking back your mental support. For someone whose identity is built on approval from others, your silence feels like a threat to their life. From their view, this is not just rejection. It feels like a betrayal. You're leaving forces out into the open, something they have worked very hard to hide even from themselves. The story they have been telling about who they are and how they are seen by others is not real. That truth does not usually accompany all at once. It creeps in slowly, hidden by anger, not caring, or another round of blaming others. Underneath those walls sits a quiet fear that they may have been wrong about themselves the whole time. This connects to a deeper truth about identity and storytelling. As humans, we understand ourselves through the stories we carry about our lives, what we have done, who we have loved, and what we have survived. But when those stories are stiff and built on dreams rather than truth, even a small crack can feel like total ruin. When you refuse to play the part they gave you, they are left alone on an empty stage. They may rush to find someone else, putting the same demands onto a new person and trying to build the same pattern, but it never fully works. You were not just another character. You were someone who truly saw them, perhaps more clearly than anyone else ever had. When the person who knew them best leaves, they are forced to face something more painful than being alone. They are forced to see that the story itself was never real. The empty space you leave behind is not just emotional space. It is a loss of direction. They no longer know who they are without the role they play. Yet in your life, because your presence gave their fake self something to lean on. Without you, the emptiness that was always there becomes impossible to ignore. This is where their big lie finally falls apart. Not just because you moved on, but because you moved on without needing their understanding or approval. You left with calm self-respect instead of bitterness. By doing that, you did not end a relationship. You took apart a lie. This is why your silence is so strong. It tells a truth their pride cannot fight. In that quiet space, the mask breaks and they are left facing the one thing they fear the most, who they are without you. Emotional distance may sound simple or even tough, but within narcissistic patterns, it is a deeply brave act. Detachment is not having no feelings. It's controlling them. It happens when you stop reacting automatically. When your feelings can no longer be pulled, triggered, or used against you, the narcissist realizes they no longer have entry to your inner world. That is the moment their control truly ends. Narcissists do not only want your attention, they want your emotional energy. They want your highs and lows, your anger, your sadness, and your confusion. Every reaction you give them assures them that they still matter. Even pain tells them the bond is still alive. As long as you are emotionally hooked, they believe they can still manage the result. This is why your inner withdrawal is so scary to them. You are no longer easily upset. You are no longer chasing approval. You stop changing yourself just to avoid a fight. You begin to respond with thought instead of acting without thinking. In doing so, you take back your personal power, something they had no right to control. This is not about becoming cold or unkind. That would be shutting down, not growing. True detachment is clarity. You see the narcissist as they are, not as who they pretended to be or who you hope they might become. You stop putting your care onto and start watching them with clear eyes. Often, this is when they try one last time to pull you back. They may appear kind, sorry, or suddenly wise. This is rarely real change. It is a survival move. They are reacting to the loss of influence because your detachment has flipped the power balance. You are no longer playing by their rules. You may notice small tries to get a reaction, little tests, guilt trips, or emotional pressure. When none of it works, when you offer no anger, no begging, no comfort, they are left powerless. For them, this is scary because it proves that their control is not weakening. It is already gone. This process is about becoming whole within yourself. When you detach, you step out of the grip of someone else's emotional mess. You anchor yourself in your own values. You take back the right to decide what is real, what is okay, and what is no longer allowed. You stop feeding their need for importance at your cost. This change does not require fighting or revenge. It only requires steady self-respect. Not caring is the one response a narcissist cannot handle or beat. They do not understand it. They cannot trick it. This is where your real growth begins. You stop moving in response to them and start moving according to your own beat. Eventually, they realize the version of you they once controlled no longer exists. You have outgrown the pattern entirely. Your freedom threatens them on a deep level. Not just your ability to live your life, but your inner balance and sense of self. This kind of freedom exposes what they lack. Narcissists are not grounded within themselves. Their sense of worth depends on constant feedback from others. Without that mirror, their fake self crashes, showing deep insecurity and confusion. When you become emotionally self-sufficient, you stop supporting their twisted version of reality. You become living proof that their power was never real. You may hope this truth helps them change, but more often it leads to an our crash because an identity built on hiding cannot easily be fixed. That is no longer your job. You have entered a new phase of life, one built on purpose instead of reaction. By removing the belief that they were the center of your world, you forced them to face the truth they spent their life running from. They were never the source of your strength. You always were. Taking back your energy and building a life rooted in trust in yourself is your greatest win. The moment you no longer need them to confirm your worth is the moment they are left facing their own emptiness. And that truth is something they can no longer escape. When they no longer get a reaction from you, they slip into a deep state of mental panic. To really understand this, you have to realize that your emotional energy is what feeds their fake sense of identity. Your anger, your sadness, your need to explain yourself, all of it has been their fuel. When those emotional responses disappear, the narcissist starts to feel something close to inner starvation. For years, they trained you to react on command. They pushed buttons, created confusion, and relied on sure emotional responses from you. The moment that system stops working, their sense of reality starts to shake. They do not view your silence as strength or healing. They see it as an open challenge to their control. In their mind, your calm is not neutral. It is a threat. This is why the time right after you pull away is often the most shaky and intense. They begin switching roles fast, becoming the victim one moment, the attacker the next, and then suddenly the caring, longing partner from the past. They search desperately for the version of themselves that will still affect you. Each role is a try to unlock an emotional response and pull you back into the pattern. This wild behavior comes from a truth they cannot accept. If they cannot control how you feel, they lose control over who they are around you. A narcissist only feels powerful when anyone else feels smaller. When you stay grounded and steady, you no longer reflect their power back to them. The mirror you once provided goes blank. They look at you and find no proof of being better. In that emptiness, they are forced to feel how fragile and small they truly feel. To escape that feeling, they often increase their efforts. This is when gossip spreads, lies grow louder, and other. People may suddenly be used as messengers. They look for any weakness, any sign that you still care enough to be affected. They believe pain equals connection. What they fail to understand is that your withdrawal is not a trick or a silent punishment. It is a full emotional exit. You have moved inward. Your heart is no longer located where they know how to reach it. One of the biggest internal FTS happens when you stop waiting for them to admit the harm they caused. For a long time, your healing may have depended on the hope that they would finally understand. You may have believed that if you explained things better or stayed patient longer, something would click for them. Letting go means accepting that understanding will never come and realizing that you no longer need it. You're really. Thank you does not require their agreement to be real. When this truth settles inside you, their words lose power. Their insults sound empty. Their compliments feel fake. You begin to see their actions not as a reflection of your value, but as a pattern rooted in their own broken inner world. This understanding becomes armor. Mind games no longer work because you trust your own eyes. You are no longer ting inside their emotional story. You are watching it from the outside. And this shift from participant to watcher is what eventually pushes them away. They cannot function without emotional entry to you. As you keep moving forward, the space once filled by confusion and chaos begins to open up. A different kind of quiet appears. This silence is not heavy or fearful like before. It is calm and open. It allows you to hear yourself again. You begin connecting again with the parts of you that were hidden to avoid conflict. Your interests return. Your opinions feel safe to say. You rediscover what it feels like to connect with people who do not demand that you shrink. The narcissist may hang around in the background, watching, waiting, hoping for a moment of weakness, but your steady behavior protects you. Every day you choose steadiness. You grow stronger every day. You stay rooted in your truth. Their influence fades. The greatest result of your freedom is that manipulation stops working. You are no longer searching outside yourself for approval or safety. You become your own emotional anchor. You learn how to make your own sense of stability. And to someone who survives by feeding others, that freedom feels blinding. When you stop looking for fairness from someone who cannot give it, something permanent changes inside you. For years, you may have believed that logic, proof, or patience would eventually lead to responsibility. You hoped that one day they would recognize the damage they caused. But the turning point in healing is realizing that their refusal to understand is done on purpose. It is not confusion. It is protection. Admitting harm would force them to face the fake image they built of themselves. That image matters more to them than your pain. So they choose denial every time. Once you accept this, you stop waiting for apologies and start living again. You take back the right to define your story without their voice in it. This requires deep acceptance. You stop expecting emotional maturity from someone who operates without it. You begin to see that while you were seeking closeness and honesty, they were focused on control and ownership. This truth hurts, but it also frees you. When you stop expecting chaos to behave like health, their behavior becomes predictable instead of personal. Trying to upset you looks mechanical. Guilt trips look scripted. You begin to recognize the patterns instead of reacting to the emotions. By watching them with distance instead of openness, you step out of the emotional prison they created. Slowly, your energy returns to you. In the past, so much of your mental space was spent guessing their moods, calming their anger, or fixing emotional damage. Now that energy becomes available for your own life. At first, the calm may feel strange. It can even feel empty. That is only because your body is adjusting to the lack of constant stress. What you are feeling is peace. In this space, you are free to explore who you are without the role of caretaker or target. You can think about the emotional wounds that made you open to manipulation, not to blame yourself, but to protect your future. This awareness helps ensure you never repeat the same pattern. The narcissist may respond to your peace with confusion or sudden anger. They cannot stand the idea that you are happy without them. They may interrupt your calm or pretend to have changed completely. But because you are grounded now, these tricks fail. You are no longer watching for signs of their growth. You are watching your own well-being. Your life is no longer shaped by reaction. It becomes an expression of your values and choices. Choosing yourself ends the cycle of harm and begins the cycle of rebuilding. You are not defined by what they damaged. You are defined by what you chose to fix. Moving from survival to true growth requires shifting your attention inward. When the noise finally stops, the silence can feel uncomfortable. For so long, your identity existed in response to their behavior. Now you must define yourself without a fight. This stage is about taking back your mind. It begins by recognizing that the critical voice in your head does not belong to you. It was planted. It is made of their fears put onto you. Healing means slowly taking apart that voice. Every thought telling you that you are not enough must be questioned. Every belief that makes you responsible for their behavior must be replaced with truth. As healing continues, your sense of time changes. In abuse, everything exists in crisis mode. You live moment to moment, always waiting for the next emotional storm. Now you can think ahead. You can imagine a future. That can feel scary at first, because your trust in your judgment was weakened. Rebu. Building trust in yourself happens through small acts. You make promises to yourself and keep them. You honor boundaries even when no one challenges them. You begin listening to your gut feeling again. That quiet inner guide that was once ignored becomes reliable. Every time you follow it, you repair a connection they tried to break. You are returning to yourself steadily and permanently.